Hi, hello, and welcome to this video. 2023 is over, at least when this video is coming out. To me, it's the 30th of December, and I really wanted to make ranking videos of what has happened in 2023. So this will be the first of 5 videos of me ranking whatever happened in 2023. This is the top 10 worst movies of this year. Then I will also have a top albums of the year, a TV shows ranked video, and like I already did for 2022 and 2021, I will have a top 50 songs of the year and a top 50 movies. First of all, what I want to mention is the fact that this year I stopped really watching movies that I knew were going to be bad and that I didn't really have any interest in whatsoever. That's simply because I realized, okay, even though I have a lot of free time still, I could use that free time much more and much better if I actually watch movies that are interesting me. So movies like The Nun 2 or Exorcist Believer or Winnie the Pooh, the horror movie version, I just didn't even bother to watch because I genuinely had no interest in watching them and I had no trust in them being good at all. So I didn't want to waste my time on them. So basically this top 10 list is filled with movies that I actually had a good reason to watch. Movies that kind of disappointed me, movies that were not as good as previous movies in a series maybe, or just generally movies that were bad. Movies that I want to mention that I could have put on this list but I didn't get the chance to watch them were first of all Wish, the new Disney movie, and also Migration, the new Illumination movie. Wish because genuinely reviews haven't been that great, and Migration because it's an Illumination movie, and even though this movie seemed to be pretty fine, I don't like Illumination a lot, so that's why this could have ended on my list. Also Rebel Moon is a movie that was getting very bad reviews that I did not watch yet. Insidious 5 I only want to watch after watching Insidious 4. Also Cocaine Bear seemed to be a pretty goofy idea, but the reviews haven't been that great. And now obviously Ant-Man 3 and the Marvels. I still didn't catch up with Marvel that well this year. Moving on to the movies that I actually watched. First of all, 2 honorable mentions. Bird Box Barcelona is the first one. This movie was bad, but just very dull, and that's why I didn't want to put it on a list. It is basically even worse than Bird Box because it had the chance to do something better than what Bird Box did, but even though it had a different concept, it ended up making exactly the same mistakes. And also a movie that I want to mention that I just watched recently that I didn't review yet, but that was just very disappointing, is Saltburn, the new Fenell movie. I already dislike Promising Young Woman, but I still had something that was motivating me to watch Saltburn because reviews have been great again, and maybe I'll give her another chance. But this movie did everything wrong in the exact same way as Promising Young Woman did. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Now moving on to my number 10 worst movie of the year, and that is Manta Zwoter Teil, Manta 2. Basically, Manta is a movie from the 80s or 90s. I think from the 90s. It's a German comedy about race cars. You know, it's fine. And now we have a second part that nobody asked for really. And even though I heard bad things about it, I did watch it because the first movie was kind of fun. But basically, this movie was just one of the most unfunny, tacky, annoying comedies. The story did not make sense at all. It was just very senseless. I didn't laugh a single time, I think. But it was just a very pointless movie. And to be honest, German movies get hated a lot by Germans. If I asked any German what their opinion is about German movies, they will genuinely just say German movies are bad. And this is the exact type of movie that fills this cliche. But it's only my number 10. My number 9 is actually a movie that was just very disappointing. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is my number 9. This is not completely unlikable and horrible in the way that, for example, Manta is, because the Super Mario Bros. Movie is not an incompetently made movie, but it's just super dull and super lifeless and just commercial. I felt like this movie was not trying to really be a good movie, more than just be a good movie representation of the Super Mario franchise for the fans of the franchise. And I genuinely don't get how people can have fun with this movie. And it's not like I sat in the theater just completely annoyed by everything, because again, the movie was not horribly made. It was just very dull, and it left me with absolutely nothing. I left the theater and I instantly realized that I will not be thinking about this movie in a matter of 24 hours. And I didn't. The only times I thought about this movie was when I thought about what were the worst movies of this year. I think this had some good ideas, but ultimately this just left me with nothing, and yeah, that's why it's on this spot. My number 8 is a movie that I didn't really expect on this list, simply because I actually thought it was a pretty good idea. Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget is a movie that nobody really asked for, simply because there was one good Chicken Run movie, so why make another one? But yeah, I thought, okay, yeah, we'll see. The first one was good. The first one is a fun movie. What could go wrong? But basically, this is just one of the most boring movies this year. I had no fun watching this, simply because it felt like one of the most predictable movies of the year. Even a boring movie like Super Mario Bros. Had something unexpected about them, but everything that happens in this film feels like it's borrowed from another movie that makes it a lot better. And this just is the combination of like ideas we've seen forever now. Some of the biggest cliches in movies. I never really had fun with it. I never really thought something was funny. And after half of the movie was already over, it seemed like it was even more pointless when bringing back the villain of part 1. So there was basically nothing new in this film. Next movie, my number 7 spot, is Old Dads, a Netflix movie directed by Bill Burr. And that's why I was really interested in this film, because it's directed by Bill Burr, one of my favorite stand-up comedians. He's really funny. I love him for such a long time already. I think he has such a great sense of humor, and he really can just talk about anything and make it funny. But then he directed a movie. He basically put the material of one of his comedy specials just in the script of a film, and it is very unfunny and boring. So moving on, my number 6 is another Netflix comedy that is very unfunny and boring, and that's You People. The movie is written by Jonah Hill, and I think the guy is very talented. He's funny, and I also think that the script could have been like a funny movie, and in general like a good movie, because the guy already wrote and directed a very good movie that's called Mid-90s, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But I think this movie is just one of the most boringly directed movies, and has absolutely no life whatsoever. It's just the same formula for 2 hours, and it's really like there's nothing interesting in this movie from a filmmaking perspective. And I don't need a rom-com about a guy meeting the dad of his girlfriend to be like cinematically complex and just completely mind-blowing, but I genuinely just want to look at something interesting, which this movie had nothing. It had some of the most boring editing I've seen in this whole year, or in general. It's so boring. And yeah, it just left me with absolutely nothing. I was just waiting for this movie to end. So yeah, moving on to my number 5 spot, which is the second video game adaptation this year that is ending up on this list. And it's, yeah, it really hurts me, because just like the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, I'm actually kind of a fan of the video games. I don't play these games regularly or anything, but I remember a time where I thought these games were so interesting and so scary actually. But it feels like everything that was good about the games was just deleted from this movie. It was turned into a very cliched and boring horror movie with a twist ending that is just so random and not good at all. Characters that I just could not care for. And it's also just not scary at all. I feel like a game that is really, really scary, despite the concept being very simple, could be very easily turned into a movie if you just use the same type of scares. I don't really like movies that really just concentrate on jump scares, but I feel like the whole point of the Five Nights at Freddy's games is to have like the most scary jump scares, because the whole game just consists of long build up and long waiting. And this movie is just boring. Like, it's not suspenseful at all, like the games. And so, yeah, to me, everything good about the games is just deleted. And that's why it's on this list. And now, moving on to my number 4 spot. This is a movie that was recommended to me in a way, not really recommended as a movie I would find good, but a movie that it would be fun bad. And that's my fault. This is a classic toxic relationship romances that seems to be like a big trend nowadays in movies. And yeah, it's really boring. And to be honest, I kind of had fun with this in the first half, but then I was basically forced to watch the movie by myself, like to finish the last half of the movie by myself, because the person I watched this with had to leave. And so I realized how boring this movie actually is without a person that you can make fun of the movie with. Yeah, moving on, my number 3. Worst movie of the year. This is actually really disappointing, and I will explain myself. I already explained myself in a review. Shin Kamen Rider, directed by Hideaki Anno is a movie that, yeah, I was kind of looking forward, not because I knew anything about Shin Kamen Rider, which is apparently something that is not original to this movie, like a franchise that already exists. And Hideaki Anno is obviously the director and maker of the Evangelion series. And also he made Shin Godzilla, which is a really good Godzilla movie and probably my favorite Godzilla movie. But yeah, this movie is just so boring. There's nothing fun about this film. And I have a friend who liked this movie and who said I didn't get it because I don't have the context of the show or whatever this is based on. Like, I can appreciate maybe that this movie is very true to what the original source material is, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I enjoyed nothing about it, and it was so boring at some point that I just wanted to watch this movie in the background. But because it, you know, is original language Japanese, I think it's impossible to watch as something that I could just pay my half attention on, because I had to read subtitles. So this movie is too boring to pay my full attention to, so it was just a movie that I did not want to finish. It's actually a movie I didn't finish this year, and the only movie I didn't finish this year that is on its list. Whew. Okay, number 2. Almost my worst movie of the year. This was so disappointing, like one of the biggest disappointments this year. Fast X is the 10th Fast and Furious movie. And my god, like, they just keep getting worse and worse. I think objectively there's a lot more bad shit in Fast 9, or what is it called, F9, because it's even more ridiculous. I mean, that's the movie that they went into space in. But yeah, I feel like this is just where they completely lost the plot, and where it's not fun bad anymore, and it's just instead very boring and bad. I sat in the theater and I kind of was invested in something that was going on, because I mean, I am sticking with these characters for over 2 decades now. Obviously I have some interest in what is happening with these characters. It's like The Walking Dead. I didn't really like the last season that much, but because these are characters I've been following for such a long time already, I feel like I need to know what happens to them, and I definitely will watch the next Fast and Furious part. But the plot was just so boring, and it looked so bad. This had such a huge budget, but I feel like nothing was really believable anymore. It just kept getting more and more ridiculous and pointless, and really, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, they already brought back characters in the last few parts. Like, they just seem like they getting back characters that left the series already with every single movie. And with the last movies, it feels like it was fine, but it's getting more and more ridiculous now. Like, after already just being disappointed with what was happening, I additionally was really angry with everyone who was involved in the making of this film. Whew. So yeah, this is my second least favorite movie of the year. And now my number 1 movie of the year is the only movie this year that I could have given like 0 stars. After Everything is the 5th installment in the After series. Just like My Fault, this is a series of toxic relationship drama between our 2 main characters that is based on a Harry Styles fanfiction. But I'm not going to lie that I watched all 4 parts already. Not because I was invested in them, but because I wanted to see how fun bad this is. The first one was absolutely awful and not fun at all, but somewhere in between, it's always like kind of entertaining. Sometimes it's fun bad, and sometimes it actually feels like these parts are getting like more and more introspective. And you know, watching movies about struggling people can be very interesting, and these movies are just filled with stories about struggling people and about addiction and about toxic relationships. But it's always when these relationships are getting like worshipped in a way, and when it feels like they are portrayed in a good way, and that these toxic people are not learning from their mistakes, and that it's okay to not learn from your mistakes if you are an alcoholic, for example. That's when these movies get really, really, really bad. And so I was kind of surprised when I saw this movie actually move into a direction where it feels like they are getting more mature, and where it feels like the characters are learning from their mistakes, and where, because this is the last part of the series, we are like finally moving to an ending that would be a good ending for these characters. And that's why I have to say, even though this movie is cheesy and has a lot of bad things about it and is not really moving away from the flaws that are already present in the previous 4 parts, that I did enjoy this film for a big chunk of it. And I don't want to give a 0 out of 10 rating to a movie that has some good things, But this movie managed to cancel out everything good about it in just 10 minutes. Like, there's nothing else I can give a movie that is so absolutely pointless. This movie was so bad that even like one of our two main characters in this whole series wasn't present for like 5 minutes of the movie. Simply because like they just couldn't bother to wait making this movie so that we could have our second lead of this franchise in it. They just thought, okay, we don't give a fuck, we are just making this movie without her, and yeah, we are going to see her in the last 5 minutes of the film and it's going to be fine. There's so much wrong with this film. I didn't even want to review it because I just realized how pointless it is. And I wanted to express how absolutely pointless this movie is by making this 1.5 minute recap of the movie, because that's how quickly you can recap the plot of this film. This movie is absolutely awful and one of the worst, one of these toxic relationship movies that we have, even though it isn't even like as toxic as most of the other movies in this franchise. Yeah, thank you for watching. Don't watch these films, or maybe watch them, and like if you watch them, give your opinions, because I'm really interested. If anyone liked these films, I'm interested in why. Or tell me what your least favorite movies of the year were. And yeah, this is, like I already said, the first part of my 5-part ranking series of 2023. So next video will be my top albums of the year video, or favorite albums of the year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.